Hi everybody, welcome to the PrepWell Academy tutorial, where we're going to take a little test drive of the program so that you can get a feel for what's inside and so that you can hit the ground running. Now I'm going to use a fictitious email and password just to get the deal going here. And you can see the first place you land is called Your Locker. This is the place that collects all of the weekly lessons from year to year to year. Now, it looks like this person is a sophomore currently, but they also enrolled as a freshman, so they get the benefit of being able to go back in time and view all of last year's lessons as well. And then next year, it'll be junior year, and after that, senior year. So for our purposes, you're a current sophomore, and we're going to look at sophomore year, the basic plan. Now, you may have enrolled in basic plus athlete plan, so it might say that there, or basic plus military ROTC plan, or it might say the bundle plan if you enrolled in all of them. But in our case, we're going to look at the basic plan. So let's jump into the lessons. So right off the bat, you can see every month there's a lesson that posts. We started off at the end of August with our welcome lesson. Then in September, we had our 4 lessons. And October, the same. And November, the same. And then in December, we had our 1 lesson so far. And I can deduce from this that this is a sophomore that's somewhere in the first week in December, because we only post 1 lesson per week. So presumably in a couple days, the next lesson will post, and then a week later, the next one and the next one. We only want to give you 1 lesson per week because we don't want to overwhelm you. We want to make sure that you're concentrating and focusing on one digestible task or concept at a time. If we go back up to the top, this is what's called the progress bar, and this shows you and your parents basically how current you are on all the lessons. It's a nice little snapshot. Now, in this case, this student's doing pretty well. They have 13 out of 14 lessons completed. Almost perfect. Now, you're not always going to be perfect because, as we'll see in a second, sometimes the lessons will require some legwork, maybe some logistics, maybe a little bit of scheduling a couple weeks out. But if you can keep close to this, that's going to be great. Obviously, the more up-to-date you can do, the better. So let's jump into August for our first lesson, just by way of introducing the format. You may have seen this before. The format is me giving a little spiel on top in a video, and then down below there's some amplifying information. In this case, it's welcoming you to the PrepWell Academy and a little bit about it, a little bit about who I am, a little bit about how the Academy works and what you'll be expected to do and the time commitments and why we're doing this and what you should focus on. There's some ways to hit me up on the social media down here. There'll also be some times where there's a downloadable PDF here, depending on what the lesson is. This particular lesson didn't require one, so there's none there. So we'll go back to the front and look at some of these others. Why is sophomore year so important? I'm not going to click into this one. I'm just going to say this, that my opinion is that sophomore year might be the most important year of the entire high school career. Now, a lot of people will push back on me and say, well, what about junior year? You've got all the standardized tests, and you've got the toughest classes, and you're a leader in your activities. That's all true, but if you're not setting yourself up for success in sophomore year, junior year is going to be a mess. You need to get your study habits down. You need to get your reading, your homework, all of the logistics, your efficiency down pat so that when junior year comes around, you're ready to go. So sophomore year, very important as the setup. PSAT, let's go into this one. So once again, at the top, I give my little pitch for why the PSAT is so important. We give you links down here to, let me just pause that for now, links down here to introduce you to the PSAT, the 2 different flavors of tests, and how and when to sign up and how to prepare, some accounts that you can go to and set up in Khan Academy to help you prepare. We give you some high-level information about the test itself, give you a link to some sample questions and some sample sections so you can work on those so that you're not going in there completely blindly and not really knowing what you're doing. We make sure you're at least familiar, if not well prepared. And then down here, some of the best test prep resources you can take to make sure you're good to go. So I'll back up here. What you're interested in. Man, this is one that we go back to every couple months. We try to have you, even as a sophomore, start thinking about what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, what you love to do. Do you have hobbies? If you could travel, where would you go? What do you do in your spare time? This stuff's going to be important as you get older, as you start thinking about college majors, about colleges themselves, about potential career paths. So we want you to start thinking about it. And you can see here I downloaded this little cheat sheet. Sometimes I ask you to actually write things down, because sometimes by writing them down, it forces you to think. It imprints it in your mind, and hopefully you'll keep a journal of this and start monitoring and tracking what you're trending on particularly liking. So this is a big one, and we revisit it many, many times. Your LinkedIn profile. It is very important, maybe even you started it last year, I hope, to start creating an online profile. Now, I've tested and researched and experimented with my own students about what's the best platform to create an online resume for high school kids, and I found it to be LinkedIn. And I've created one here, this fictitious person, Chris PrepWell, going to PrepWell High School, and I show the kids how exactly to open an account, how to put your background information in, how to put your awards, your extracurriculars, your grades, all that stuff. I lead them through exactly how to do that. And this is very important because, number one, if you used to do it by paper and sticking them in folders and whatnot, that's okay, but oftentimes that gets lost and it's not always kept up to date. But this is on your desktop. You can always pull this up and very easily log in, type in that award that you got, and you're good to go. You'll also want to thank me later because the Common Application, which you will likely find in senior year, is almost identical to the format of this. So if you're diligent about this, by the time senior year comes around, you have to fill out those applications. You are just going to copy and paste from one platform to the other. And it's going to be super efficient. You're going to be very happy. The more diligent you are and the more thorough you are creating this LinkedIn profile, the better. Let's see what we have next. What do highly selective colleges expect? We'll talk about what do they think your SAT should be? What range? What about the ACT? What about your GPA? What types of classes are they going to expect that you take? What about your extracurriculars and what types of leaderships? We talk about all that. In the next lesson, we talk about being an advocate for yourself, how it's time to leave your parents behind and that you need to start fighting your own battles, whether it's with a teacher or a coach or a friend or a guidance counselor. Now is the time to take the reins of your life and start figuring some things out for yourself. And we talk about strategies and tactics on how to do that efficiently in that lesson. Now for wall calendars, this is something that very few kids I found do. I do it myself, and our family does it, and it's to use a wall calendar. Now, when I survey all my kids, most of them use a calendar on their phone, and I'll admit I do as well. It's great to have it on the road, mobily. It's great to be able to check your availability and what you've signed up for while you're away. But when you're home, when you're waking up in the morning, I like, for kids especially, for them to have an idea of what's coming down the pipe, not just one day at a time in their phone. So for instance, this would be, say, for next year, for junior year, spring break. Then you have the SAT here. Then you got to study beforehand. Then you have some tournaments away. Then you have AP exam, SAT subject test. This stuff is very important to be able to see from way far back, not from the day-to-day on your phone, because if you wake up and your day-to-day on your phone, you wake up on Thursday and the SAT's the next day and you didn't realize it, that's not great to do. So I encourage kids to start doing this freshman year, sophomore year. It's going to become exceedingly important in your junior year when you have all this big mess of very important things to do, to be able to see from a distance what's coming down the pike. What else do we have here? Reconnecting with your guidance counselor. This is one that I hope all PrepWellers do. Very few kids do it. I talk about why it's important to nurture that relationship with your guidance counselor, how exactly you should do it. And in fact, I give you a script for how to meet with that guidance counselor. In fact, I even give you a script on how to talk to the receptionist to set your meeting up. And then I tell you, what should the few questions be? It's only going to be a 15-minute meeting. What should the questions be that you pose to that guidance counselor so that you make sure that you're comfortable, that you go in there, you have a little plan of action, you practice it with your dog or the mirror or whomever it might be, and you go in there and really, really take that guidance counselor by storm and really look mature and ready to go. And then what else do we have here? Your favorite teacher or extracurriculars. What extracurriculars should you do? What should you focus on? What do colleges care about? How many is enough? How many is too many? We go through all that. How about having a favorite teacher? Now in sophomore year, it's not always the time to get a letter of recommendation from a teacher, but sometimes it is. So if you find a teacher that you love in a class that you're doing very well in, I will coach you on how to make sure you position yourself so that if you had to get a letter of recommendation from that teacher, you're ready to go. Then we talk about prepping for the summer for the SAT and the ACT. I'm not going to go into that now. I have extremely strong opinions on that, which you'll find in this lesson. What classes should I take next year? Should I take AP classes? How many? How many is too many? What about honors classes? How many do they expect me to take? What happens if I get a B? Is it better to get a B in an AP class or an A in a non-AP class? We'll talk about all that. And lastly, setting up some accounts in December. I give my bit up here about what accounts you should set up and why. And the first thing is an email address. I have so many of kids that I work with who have email addresses like partygirl2019, or johnnyboomboom@me.com. No. We teach you how to create and make sure that you create a viable official email address that you're going to start now for all your official correspondence. I'd love you to buy a URL that has your name in it, like Clay Rollins, and his email address would be clay@clayrollins. That would be ideal, and I teach you how to do that. And then it comes down to all of these accounts that I'd like you to sign up with now to make sure you're in the flow. College search information from Big Future. The College Board is mandatory. Khan Academy, TED Talks. And we're going to talk about these over the course of the year. So I want you to get in the flow and make sure you're up to date on all the things that are going on. And then lastly, there's a little comment section down here. Anytime you want, please leave a comment or a question or a topic that you'd like me to add a little bit more information to. Sometimes I will ask you to put comments in the box down below to continue to build this PrepWell community. Oftentimes people put down things there that they're doing over the summer or an internship that they got, and it really inspires the community and it inspires me. So we're going to use that to the best we can. And then down here, of course, we have all of our social. If you want to connect with me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn, Pinterest, please do that as you see fit. And otherwise, I hope this has been helpful. I hope you feel more oriented to the website. And remember, if you're joining PrepWell well into the school year and it's not August or September, please do your best to go back in time, review all the prior lessons in a timely fashion so that you don't miss anything critical, milestones or deadlines, which there are some of. And overall, just welcome to PrepWell Academy. I'm really glad to have you aboard and can't wait for you to start.